I figured out a
familiar with
workaround.
this
It's
resolution
Not
attempt.
beautiful,
Yes.
but
It was
it
under-
is something.
I understand that this letter was delivered to the protesters on the evening of February 11th.
Yes, I'm
Correct.
aware of that.
You know,
Just figuring something
but
out.
ultimately, it unfortunately did not lead to a resolution of the blockade
That's correct.
of the bridge. And in that regard, what I mean is the bridge continued to be blocked.
That's correct.
Okay. I might just have one moment. Deputy Chief, you were taken to a debrief document by Commission Council that had a number of comments about the experience that had taken place throughout the protest and the blockade, and then the resolution of the blockade. And you noted that you thought it was, expressing opinions of particular individuals that were present there. I'd just like to ask you what, in your view, if you were
An accurate
asked to
description?
debrief,
Absolutely.
what would
I
you
watched
say were the lessons learned, the things that worked or things that
Sure.
didn't work?
I think that a lot of the document is true. Like, like this document is all about transparency for us. We're trying to improve. We're trying to develop policy and procedure that can maybe at one day mirror the experience of the OPP. So these kind of things like internal communication was a big one. Improving that, improving who was actually in the EOC, not at the command table, but in the EOC for, like, say, for finance and for maybe the executive officer, the chief should have been there for a better communication, for internal communication. These are the things that, we right away realized that, we're learning, and certainly there would be some changes, but the things that worked were when the OPP came into town, we were completely welcoming, and that seamless integration of Superintendent Earley's team with our team, everybody was pulling the rope in the same direction. And that was what helped us. That was our success.
Okay, those are all my questions. Thank you very much.
Okay. Next is former Chief Slowly's counsel.
It's difficult to multitask here with all the different things happening.
Deputy Chief Tom Curry for former Chief Slowly. Just a few minutes and just a few questions.
Okay.
Just to get your help as a person who's been in policing as long as you have been and holding the roles that you are holding, the positions and ranks that you have held.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned the limitations on the service's ability to act on information as opposed to intelligence. Do you recall that?
I don't know. I don't, like, if that's what I said, I don't know if we had an inability to act on information. It was the inability, or maybe the desire to act on information at times that was not legitimate or confirmed or things like that. That's
Fair
maybe
enough.
what I meant.
Maybe I can ask you about this. Your colleague,
Demonstrators are asking.
who's in the role now of chief, Chief Belair.
Yes.
He gave a statement to the Commission Council. I'm not going to turn it up, but can I just read you this? He isn't going to testify, so I'm just going to get you to see whether he has captured the idea that that I understood you were expressing. And this is in relation to the February 6th information about the slow roll and the possibility that protesters had threatened to block the Ambassador Bridge. You recall that on the 6th, learning that.
Yes, sir.
What Chief Belair said, and this is just for reference on page 2 of his statement. He said, however, he stated that he was reluctant to interfere with the flow of traffic to and from the bridge in the absence of compelling intelligence, because of the importance of the bridge to international trade.
Okay.
Is that a sentiment that you agree with?
As a critical incident commander, I mean, I can't disagree with it, but I certainly was not willing to interject in that point to escalate the situation.
Right. In other words, you weren't going to be, on the basis of what you had heard of a threat, you weren't going to go closing roads all over town
we were
and
not.
disrupt things. And I don't know how, when you say earlier that you were following the events in Ottawa, you understood that that was a much larger, much more significant and complex protest than the one that you were dealing with.
I would agree.
The number of vehicles that actually blocked this critical infrastructure strikes me as a very small number. Do you agree?
Well, compared to what Ottawa was dealing with, I would say yes. But I mean, we at times we were estimating up to 100, 150 vehicles.
150. And the low end, for the commissioner's purposes, sometimes I saw numbers that were below 50 even as they came and went.
I'd have to trust you on that. I don't
Okay.
think.
No, that's, don't, we'll.
I mean, my intelligence was going by drone shots and things like that. I'm 10
understood.
kilometers away, right?
Very hard to get actual information about it. Tell the commissioner, if you would, please, where were these plates, where were these vehicles coming from? What do you got on the plates?
Ontario, most of them, there were some locals. As we ran plates, the officers on grounds running plates. There was different areas of the province.
Right.
I would say mostly Ontario, though.
And were there any from outside of Ontario?
I don't recall. Sorry, I really don't.
Okay. And therefore, we wouldn't know, you wouldn't have any good intelligence as to whether any of them had originated at the protest in Ottawa and then come down to Windsor.
No.
No,
A couple of then just
that
very quick
really
things,
didn't happen
resources.
though.
If I understand what you were telling us,
Yeah,
when resources were required, and it was obvious that, first of all, the Windsor Police Service was
Doing
overwhelmed
great,
by
Smoothie.
this.
Thanks.
Couldn't handle it
again,
itself.
if you guys are appreciating today's coverage, feel free to
The
head
main
down
goal is to
to
get
this amazing
the
website right
resources
here.
in town, and you can
Right
formalize the
here. You can't see
requests
it, but it's, like,
afterwards.
right here.
I think you talked about inspector to inspector, and then having a more formal request go from the chief to the chief as needed. Is that fair?
Go.
Yeah, that's fair.
And you
Go
were
right
asked by
there.
my
I'd really
friends from the
appreciate that.
commission about whether
Hold on
you
a
knew about the fact that the chief, that is your chief, had sent a letter to the minister, to Minister Jones, and
can-
or
you can go
Solicitor
to
General
this
Jones and
place
Minister Mendocino
And
on
you
February
buy
9th, and you
coffee,
indicated that you did not know that at the
$5,
time.
I think,
Yeah, I don't think I did.
if you want.
I mean, I was working midnights at the time. I don't
Okay.
think I
Well, and it reflects, doesn't it, what might be
That concludes our paid
euphemistically referred to as the
advertisement
fog of war. There was a lot going on,
did. Yes, sir.
and the environment was very complex and complicated.
It was.
You couldn't be expected to know every single thing that was going on in the service. Is
No,
that
I mean,
fair?
we all had our roles. My role was critical incident command. I was either working or sleeping at that point.
Probably very little of the
Very little of the
sleep.
last, yes.
And then finally, can I just ask you a question about critical incident command?
Certainly.
First of all, you remain the police of jurisdiction. You've told us that.
That's correct.
Superintendent Earley's, and she's coming here, but Superintendent Earley described in her statement, and I anticipate she will say, that there was a delay in undertaking the operation as a consequence of the letter that that you've heard about and that you saw.
Okay.
Were you aware of that?
No, was not.
And did you know that the decision to delay the operation was reviewed by Commissioner Carrique and a Deputy Commissioner Harkins, who, I'm going to use the language, overruled or at least expressed the view that Superintendent Earley should not pause the enforcement out of concern about the potential impact of that letter from the Solicitor General. Were you aware of any of that?
I did. I wouldn't know. I was not aware of that. I was aware of a possible date change, but I was not aware when it went back to the 12th.
And did you know that what Superintendent Earley was concerned with was that if a letter was going to go to Windsor protesters from the Solicitor General, that it might have an impact up in Ottawa, and that maybe she thought we better get that letter up to Ottawa, which she did. Were you aware of any of that?
No, not at the time.
And then finally, am I right that you became aware that in terms of the chain of command and who needs to approve what, that before an OPP public order unit operation is rolled out, that it is not just up to the critical incident commander, but rather a deputy commissioner has to authorize that?
That is, I don't know that. That may
Okay.
be an OPP policy, but
That's
that
fine.
certainly wasn't the Windsor.
Folks, I think what we're going to
Right,
do from
understood.
now on is I'm going
We
to
can
stop
ask
making daily
superintendent.
summaries and I'm just going to
Thank you
take
for
the
your
clips.
help.
Thank you, sir.
I think. I don't know.
Okay.
I think
Next
that's what I wanna
is
do tonight.
the Ottawa Police Service.
I'm tired. I'm tired, guys. Really tired. And there's no time like the first time. Is there? Is that right? No time like the first time.
Good afternoon, Deputy Chief Crowley. My name is David Michikowski. I'm counsel for the Ottawa Police Service.
Afternoon.
You served as the critical incident commander during the day shift. Is that correct? Or
No,
during
night
the
Night shift.
night shift,
Yes.
correct?
The night shift.
And in that
How even I
regard,
knew
am I
that.
correct that you had operational autonomy to make necessary decisions under the incident command system?
That's correct.
And so you would be operating at the operational level,
That's correct.
and the level above you would be the chief at the strategic level.
That's correct.
Yep.
But there's only one level above you, correct?
That's
And
correct.
so unlike in Ottawa, where we had an incident commander, an event commander, and a major incident commander, and then a chief, that wasn't comparable to the situation in Windsor, was it?
No, you're correct in saying that.
Yeah, that's right. Ottawa was a
Chief
mess. Event commander,
Mizuno
incident
and
commander, the hell's the
Deputy
difference?
Belair respected your autonomy and didn't interfere with your operational decisions.
I completely respected it. Yes.
And that's an important aspect of how the incident command system is supposed to work. Am I correct?
You're correct.
And you shared command with the OPP, but that's because the Windsor Police Service recognized that in an operation of this nature, the OPP obviously had much more experience and expertise than the Windsor Police Service.
That's
had.
correct. Yes.
Lessons learned from Ottawa. I believe you learned a number of lessons based on what had happened in Ottawa, and these are things that you would not otherwise have known. Is that fair?
That's fair.
And so in fact, I won't call up the document, but I believe in one of the documents, you talked about benefiting from the hindsight of Ottawa's experience, of enjoying the benefits of the hindsight from Ottawa's experience. And that impacted how Windsor decided to proceed, correct?
On certain things, the things that I talked about earlier, certainly, but not everything. I mean, like for instance, when the OPP came down and we, started to share command and work as a team, that was just the way it went. Like that was an accepted practice in my book. That's how I want it to work.
Sure.
And I'm sure Superintendent Earley will say the same thing, or should say the same thing, because it just worked that way.
And another example of learning from Ottawa was, I believe we saw in one of the documents, again, I won't turn it up, when it came to looking at the message to be given to demonstrators. I think it was a bit of a cut and paste from what Ottawa had done, correct?
I can't confirm that, sorry.
I can call up the document if that'll help. It's WPS
Yeah, me neither, Karina.
40
I'm getting excited in
1017.
anticipation of Miller time. That's what I'm hoping for today. Miller time. Woo! Because we need to wake up. We need to wake up and get some Miller time going in here.
And so you'll
Tell
see
you, need some Miller
this
time.
is simply a prepared statement if required for future use. It very much mirrors
Lawyer
what
freaks
Ottawa
out. David
Police put out, and I made
Michikowski.
very few changes to
Good.
what they had. And then underneath, if you scroll down, you'll see that was the message given to
My Friday summary
demonstrators.
was almost 10 minutes
So
long.
just judging by the time, I was not at work yet. I was still on midnights of the email, but I certainly can't disagree that maybe it is the same.
Thank you very much. You can take that down. Thank you. From the outset, as I understand it, Windsor Police Service tried their very best to respect the right to peaceful assembly,
That's correct.
keeping lines of communication open,
That's correct.
and very importantly, using police discretion.
That's correct.
And using police discretion means sometimes officers need to retreat when crowds get aggressive. In fact, I think you told us an example in which you witnessed that,
It's
correct?
part of their use of force model, yes.
And I want to just briefly conclude by talking about the intelligence. And I understand that the first Hendon report that has a possible reference to a blockade in Windsor was January 31st, but there wasn't a lot of information about it, correct?
That's
You
correct.
didn't know numbers, you didn't know dates. And although I understand after that, then on February 4th, I gather there were some social media reports suggesting a possible blockade. But again, not a lot of information.
That's correct, sir, yes.
And I understand that although
Cheers,
you had
Keith.
some advance information then about a
Thanks for being here,
possible
my friend.
blockade on January 31st, February 4th,
Yeah.
the specific
The
operational
janitor,
plan
you know,
wasn't
the
in
custodian
place when
at
bridge
the Privy
initially
Council
shut
office
down
has already
on
been
the
named as the
7th,
prime
correct?
You're
suspect.
talking about the
He was
public
the
order
reason
plan?
that we did this.
Yes.
He told
Yes,
me
that
it was
was
a good
not in place,
idea.
no.
I received
And
his
it's
advice.
not always
I moved ahead
possible to
because
be
of him.
completely prepared.
What does
in
that person do?
advance. Is that fair?
Primarily,
That is
he
fair,
tends to
And so I believe on
things that are not
February
in order as
8th,
they should
there
be.
was a general request we
Well,
heard to the OPP for officers.
you can make of that.
And
what you
that
wish.
was followed on February 9th with that letter that we saw earlier for the 100 officers, which gave some information. But that didn't provide a complete
don't drink,
plan,
Chris.
was it?
I'm not a
No,
drinker.
it was not a
Oh, wait.
complete plan.
Darlene's that drink.
And
actually got a
ultimately,
beer
what
ready for
was
Miller time today.
required
You already missed it. There was one earlier.
was a
It was pretty
POU
good.
operation was necessary to end the matter.
Yes, sir,
And that means there's going to be arrests, there's going to
I'm
be
done.
criminal
Oh,
charges,
man.
likely.
and it's an escalation.
I got to stay
That's
through
that's
this.
correct. It is an escalation for sure.
Thank you very much. I have no further questions.
Thanks, sir.
We're not even on witness 40 wave. We're on like witness
Next are
37 or something.
is the National Police Federation.
If it doesn't have anything to do with the PPS, the National Police
Hi
Federation doesn't have
there,
a question.
this is Lauren Pierce for the National Police Federation. Our questions have been asked already. We have no further questions.
Thank
She's
you.
only ever asked. They've only ever asked questions about
Next
the
are
PPS.
the
my
convoy
recollection.
organizers.
Okay, here comes Miller. He's got a phone in his. It's just a phone.
Good evening. For the record, Brendan Miller, appearing as counsel for Freedom Corp, which represents the protesters that were in the city of Ottawa in January, February. Sir, if we could first, Master Clark, just the document that my friend referred to, OPP ending
What happened
bunch
to
of
his
zeros,
computer?
4539. Could we
Okay,
bring that
anyways,
up and
Miller
pull up
time.
the
Yeah, let's do it. I
page
missed it again.
that he was on,
Everybody,
page
let's go.
42,
Everybody throw it in
where
there.
that
Just
tweet is?
throw one in there. Damn, where is it? There it is. Woo! Everybody, we gotta move around so you don't die. That's basically it. It's basically the rule. I have a stand. I have a desk that goes up and down, but I
Okay, so that's the tweet that my friend put to you earlier. Fair?
Fair?
we're gonna try
And
standing
Can
up
we scroll down with
on
the
this.
commentary?
That
Okay.
just gonna pull everything out.
Who is that individual? Do you know? Who posted that?
Things
I
are-
have no
things are
idea. I don't
breaking.
even know if I ever saw this
Okay.
back then.
You don't know if they
Things are
even
breaking,
were
one
at the
sec.
Windsor Bridge,
I don't know.
right? You don't even know if that's a real account?
I don't know.
Okay.
This is a clip.
Can you agree with me? I just want to put sort of as I understand, and these are not my words I'm about to put to you, but I want to know if you agree with the following with respect to online social media and spaces. So the anonymity of an online space allows individuals to post commentary that they would not normally say in public. Many posts in this space are best articulated, and again, this is not my words,
That's
as
not good.
shit posting. Strategic analysis must be driven by direct evidence collection and assessment as opposed to reliance on social media posting as it
What?
lacks context and where the poster's bias may not be considered. Would you agree with that?
Potentially, yes. But I can say that, like I said, I don't even think I saw this. But
Yeah.
when it talks about real evidence, when I heard the protesters themselves on the open chat talking about human shields, children as human shields, and seeing a picture with children holding hands across the intersection at here in church and college in the early stages, that's hard evidence for me.
Okay. And of course, you followed up on investigating that and making sure that, that wasn't an issue?
Our special investigations unit was definitely involved, and they deal with the children, the crimes against children, along with CAS for sure.
Okay. Can we scroll down to page 44, please? Okay, and so this is your, an OPP intelligence assessment of Windsor. Can we scroll down? And you want to just
That's
take a minute to
ridiculous.
read that?
What's the date on this, sir? 12th. Okay, thank you. 4 a.m.
Can I produce that? Maybe. My desk is halfway in the air right now, and I think half the things have broken here.
And you can
It's
agree
working.
there that the report there from the 12th from OPP says no persons were observed outside. There was no children were observed, but believed to be inside a camper. If we can scroll down. Only Canadian flags observed. That's it. So you can agree based on that report, as of the 12th, according to the OPP, that wasn't really an issue.
Not at this time, for sure.
And again, you agree possibly with what I said to you with respect to essentially the validity of relying on social media alone, right?
We did not rely on it alone, but I would agree with that. You cannot rely on it alone. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The questions?
Okay, next, the Ottawa Residents Coalition.
Oh my God.
Hi there, Christine Johnson for the Ottawa Residents and Businesses. We have no questions for this witness. Thank you.
Okay, next is the City of Ottawa.
I can't believe that City of Ottawa has a question. Just the way he said that. I mean, my desk is, I have to fix this.
Good evening, Deputy Chief. My name is Anne Tardif. I'm one of the lawyers representing the City of Ottawa.
Good evening.
Mr. Clerk, if we could put up WPS 60216.
Oh,
All right, and if we could go to page 8, well, actually, let's just identify the document first. Oh, there we go. Deputy Chief, these are the scribe notes for the critical incident commanders during the period in question. Is that correct?
These are the Windsor scribe notes. Yes.
Sorry, the WPS scribe notes, right, for the Windsor
Oh, sorry. I didn't hear you
CIC.
say that. Yes. They're
Yes.
WPS scribe notes for the, yes.
I may not have said it. It's late in the day, and
Yeah, I
thank
hear
you
you.
for that. And so these would have been scribe notes for you during what we're calling the midnight shifts and Inspector DeGraff during the day shift. Fair?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. And we've heard some evidence from the mayor this morning about him being reminded or advised at some point that he perhaps should not have made the concerns about making specific requests for additional resources public. And I just wanted to go to page 8 of this document first, just to situate us in time. Do you see the date
Okay, so
there?
now we're in the air.
Deputy Chief, February 9th.
this isn't
Yes.
working.
And if we could scroll down to page 11, it'll be still February 9th, but just to situate us. At timestamp of 11:35, please, Mr. Clerk, if we could
Let's look.
scroll down. Do you see there, it says CIC, Superintendent Mike
There's really nothing to
McDonnell,
say
and
there,
he's,
Lorraine.
Superintendent with the OPP, correct?
That's correct.
And then it says comms OPP liaison via phone, CIC relay message from him, being Superintendent McDonnell, to Chief and also to Mayor, not discuss any requests for additional resources, goes against / contrary messaging from OPP and our CMP, prompts protesters to gather strength and intensity, that should perhaps be
strength.
intensify, presence. You see that?
Yes.
So I take it that Superintendent McDonnell from the OPP was asking the Windsor CIC to relay to the Chief of Police and to the Mayor their advice or their request that any request for additional resources not be discussed publicly. Is that fair?
That's fair. Yes.
Oh
And
my
if we
God.
scroll to the 11:35 timestamp, that message, I guess, was relayed, correct?
I'm assuming this was a day shift, so I wasn't there for this, but I'm assuming it was relayed. Yes.
If it's in the scribe notes, fair to assume that it
It's
was
fair.
in fact relayed?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Those are my questions.
Okay, next, call on the government of Alberta.
Oh, the government of Alberta has questions. It's been a while for them.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you. My name is Stephanie Bose, appearing on behalf of the government of Alberta. I just have a couple of questions today. You've already been taken to the letter that was sent by Chief Mizuno to both Minister Blair and Minister Jones. I don't intend to call that up again, but I understand from your responses to Commission Council's questions earlier that you were not aware of that letter. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Ooh.
And one of the requests within that letter was a request for tow trucks, including heavy tow trucks for large transport vehicles. Is it fair to say that you were not aware of this request for tow trucks as well?
It could be. I don't recall, to be honest. I know that we were in need of those kind of services. We only had the one contracted service in Windsor, but I can't say that if I knew that or not.
Do you recall if you received any assistance in the form of tow trucks?
At the POU Action Day, we did receive help from the state of Michigan. They ended up sending a handful of tow trucks over to Windsor. They were staged at Micmac Park, which is approximately 4 kilometers from the bridge, but we did not use them.
Okay. And are you aware if there was any response ever received by the Windsor Police Service to those requests from Minister Blair or Minister Jones?
I'm not aware of any.
All right. Thank you. Those are all my questions today.
And I'm going to try and set this back down. We stood up for a little bit.
Okay, next,
is awkward.
call on the Windsor Police Service.
Oh. And all the wires are everywhere, which is a fantastic thing to do, really.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. I am Tom McCrae for Windsor Police Service.
This is probably the last lawyer, I think, for the day.
Can I
I'm
ask
trying
you
to write down
please,
timestamps for this,
a
but I can't
document
write
that was shown to you
timestamps now.
earlier, WPS
It's almost a joke.
501441, please. Could you please tell us whose flashes are on that first page?
That would be the Ontario Provincial Police, the Windsor Police, the London Police, and the flash of the RCMP.
In addition to those police services, who else assisted Windsor Police Service in its operations at the Ambassador Bridge?
Normally, police.
We had
services in
assistance
Canada
from
and
the
Town
Hamilton
and
Police
Roseau,
Service,
because that's where
from the Waterloo Police
authority is
Service.
derived from. So I'm wondering.
Off the top of my head, that may be it.
Thank you. Could I ask Mr. Clerk that you call up a witness statement of Catherine Diodati? It's 6062. For context, Ms. Diodati is a protester who is present in Windsor. I understand the commission does not intend to call her, but intends to submit her witness statement in evidence. Could you go please to the third page, about halfway down? A little more. That's perfect. That's perfect. It says, at 7 p.m., the injunction came into effect. Ms. Diodati said that by 7:30 p.m., a young police officer was handing out sheets of paper which explained the terms of the injunction and the potential consequences.
It's not even
for
Miller
failing
time
to
anymore.
comply with it, including fines and confiscation of property. Can you assist the commission,
It's gonna be a
Deputy
couple
Chief,
of
by
weeks,
advising
Leanne.
us as
Gonna
to
be
the
at
best of
least
your knowledge,
two, 3
what
weeks,
other
maybe 2
efforts were
weeks.
made
Well, 2
to
weeks from now, I'd
inform
say.
the public of the terms of the injunction and generally the
2 weeks
legal
and change.
consequences of the protest?
Certainly. So
It's hard to
we
know. They're being paid
utilized
their salary because it's
mainstream
part of their
media.
duty, I assume.
We utilized social media. We
Mainstream
printed
media, social
the
media.
documents, put
Mainstream
them
media,
on
number one.
telephone poles, jersey barriers, anywhere we could. We handed flyers out to the protesters. We made every effort we could with every source of media that we could to educate people on the existence of it. And the consequences would be, of course, charge of a criminal charge of disobeying a court order.
Thank you. The statement continues, Ms. Diodati said she asked the officer, what does this mean in terms of legality of protest? Will someone arrest us? She observed that the officer was shaking, which surprised her. She said that she thought that the officer must have heard that the protesters were violent, so she told the officer, you're safe, it's okay. None of us have ever been violent. Was there violence during the context of, or during this blockade at the Ambassador Bridge?
Yes.
The next paragraph, it says,
Okay,
on
so
Saturday, February
when was the
12th, Ms.
violence?
Diodati went to Huron Church
When was
Road
the
near
violence?
College Road. Ms. Diodati said the area was
Literally, like,
barricaded by
where
police
and when?
and the intersection looked like a war zone, which did not fit with the joyful atmosphere. Ms. Diodati recalled that she also spoke to a police officer from the East Coast. She said, look at these heavy armored vehicles and firearms. What are you planning to do with us? On the 12th, were there armored vehicles in the neighborhood of the Ambassador Bridge?
Yes, sir.
What was their purpose?
Well, they potentially have numerous purposes.
Stuttering.
They
The
can be
police
used
brought
to
the
block
violence. It's
intersections
stuttering
to
because the
assist
police-
us in that
The police brought the
that
violence.
capacity.
He said, was
in
there
this
violence?
state on the 12th,
Yes.
they were
Where?
there
What?
to
Examples,
you can
citations.
imagine the unpredictability of a
Perfect. Yeah, exactly.
an event of this kind at this point. So in critical incident command, there's a saying that would rather be looking at it than asking for it. So
We're talking about
typically those
Windsor right now.
those
Lorraine.
are held for a higher ground. An officer can be at the top of it's a very high vehicle, can see the crowd from a better perspective, and also it is essentially sat back in case we need it for crowd control or anything worse.
Other than these policing purposes you described, was there any other purpose for
No.
these vehicles?
No, not at all.
You told my friend, Mr. Michikowski for the Ottawa Police that the chief and the deputy chief did not get involved in your critical incident command. Was there any political involvement in any of your decisions with respect to the Ambassador Bridge blockade?
Zero.
Thank you. Those are my questions.
I live in Ottawa. Whoever's asking. We all live in Ottawa. Most of us. Ottawa, Ontario.
Any
Canada.
pre-examination?
Would that be it?
None, Commissioner.
I haven't got much. I just, one thing I'm confused about, and that arises from the videos that were shown by Citizens for Freedom, and you saw and the arrest of the person who was on the ground. How does that fit in? I thought you testified that they could continue to protest on the sidewalk, and this person doesn't seem to have been on the street, and I'm trying to understand exactly, maybe I don't know the geography.
Yes, sorry, sir. So let me explain. When I said that about the protesters on the sidewalk, that was outside of the area of control that we had tried to establish. So once after the 13th, we established basically from the bridge to Tecumseh Road and a little bit to the east. So there's a Canadian Tire, for instance, right on that northeast corner. If they're on that sidewalk outside of our Jersey barriers, we had no problem with that. If they're inside the area of control that we were trying to establish, they were asked to leave, and if they weren't, they were arrested. So that arrest and that video that we were shown, that is in that area of control on Huron Church, north of Tecumseh Road, between the Tecumseh Road and the bridge. That is the area that public order was clearing of vehicles and of pedestrians, essentially. So again, once that area of control was determined and established, anyone outside of it could stay on the sidewalk, no problem. That video was not in that area that I'm talking about on the sidewalk.
Can you just remind me then again, and I've lost the map from my mind, the area of control, if you call it, was from the bridge to Tecumseh Road? Is that?
That was the area that POU cleared, but south of Tecumseh Road was part of the traffic plan with the Jersey barriers. But that was another area of protesters if they were on the sidewalk in that area, which they weren't. But if they were, no problem. They were out of that area of control, south of Tecumseh Road. So that's, yes, from Tecumseh to the bridge was the area that we were trying to maintain. No protesters.
And how far is it from Tecumseh to the expressway?
2 kilometers or so.
So the bridge to Tecumseh would be about a kilometer?
I'd say 2 or 3, maybe, 2.
So about half of the Huron Church Road would be, if you like, not available on the sidewalks for protesters, but the other half would be.
That's correct. Based on their areas of protest for that week, because they had areas at Tecumseh Road, at the south side of the bridge and the north side of the bridge. That was the area we were trying to clear.
Okay, and the
Commissioner's asking a lot of questions about
you talked
protesting
about,
and who's given the right to
being
go
at
where.
the Emergency Preparedness Committee of the Chiefs of Police and discussion there.
Yes.
Were there meetings of that group during this period in early February when the protests were going on?
Yes, sir, there were.
And
By Zoom.
oh, so you weren't a party to those meetings?
I wasn't personally because, again, I was on midnights. Inspector DeGraff would have tuned into those. But when I flipped over to days about halfway through, I would be on those meetings when they were scheduled, yes.
Interesting. Good
And
point, Robert.
were there discussions at those meetings about the available resources?
Yeah, Deborah,
for
the way they talk about
POU
it is very
units
disturbing.
across the province?
The way they
That's
talk about
correct.
the
That's correct.
protesting.
There's a POU hub. That's how we try and work it within the province of distributing necessary resources in these cases. Yes. So there was those discussions at those meetings.
And were
That's a good point, Sharon.
those
It doesn't seem
discussions,
to
did
appear
they
to be
include
truthful.
what was needed for Ottawa? And were there enough POU units to deal with the Ottawa situation in Ontario?
Yes, in my opinion, and being a part of that committee, it seemed like there was.
And so were you part of those discussions?
I was on those meetings, but because Windsor didn't have POU officers to offer, because we don't have a POU, I was just a part of it. I wasn't an active part of it because I had nothing to offer at that point.
Okay, thank you. So I think that completes the evidence. Thank you for your attendance and your evidence. And we will adjourn till tomorrow morning at 9:30.
Okay. Interesting. Commission is adjourned until tomorrow.
The commission is adjourned. La commission est adjournée.
Okay, so that was the day. That's where we're at, people. If you enjoyed today's coverage, please considering buying a coffee. Perhaps you can go to buymeacoffee.com/Patriot Smoothie, and you can consider sending me a cup of coffee if you enjoy our time together with the comments and then the big dead time. And then today we spent all of lunch together. All of lunch. We spent all of lunch together today. The whole thing. We saw unacceptable things at lunchtime. Do you remember? We went through a walk through the old convoy. We went to Rideau, Sussex. We saw horns honking. We saw people gyrating. We saw masked and unmasked people possibly exchanging phone numbers, certainly being friendly. We saw cotton candy. This is a new one. We've heard about the bounce houses. We've heard about the hot tubs, but we never knew, folks, about the cotton candy. And for sure, we saw the cotton candy today for the first time. Maybe the two people came over with what appeared to be fresh cotton candy from a cotton candy machine, and this really elevates the assessment here. This was a serious level 17 threat to the security of Canada. Now that cotton candy was in play, we also saw that these protesters, these people fighting for their rights or whatever it is they're talking about, they had these garbage bags like every 15 meters on every traffic barrel and every signpost, and these huge areas of garbage collection where these side-by-sides would come and pick up the garbage. Like, what's that about? Bunch of oppression, really. So anyways, we'll see you tomorrow morning at 9:30 in the morning. You guys have a fantastic day. Thank you, Lori. See you, Lorraine. You're welcome, Eileen. See you then. Yeah, Kim, that's what they're saying. But if you watch the videos, they arrested people well outside of that area of control. So what's to be made of that? Who knows? Love you very much, Lena. Thank you for joining. Have a good. I forget where the camera is. Sometime it's over here. There you go. And then, all right. Have a good night, everyone. No cotton candy for me. Yeah, I don't really need it. I don't really need it, to be honest. Have a good night, Cindy. Bye now. Take care, everyone. Love you too, Sarah. Thank you so much for joining in. Love you guys. Thank you so much. Bye now.